If you've tuned in to see if you can argue with your spouse and still be madly in love, you're in the right spot.
I'm Kent.
And I'm Annie.
And we're the
Kilkos.
Sound like a game show.
We're your host of Life's Little Arguments. We're not trained experts in love and marriage. Actually, we might be quite dysfunctional, but we have been happily married for 16 years.
Debatable.
Not only will we share all the ups and downs of marriage, but the ins and outs of raising his and her kids, growing through new jobs and opportunities, and our latest obsession, our empty nest babies, our dogs, Blakely and Lincoln.
So if you hear tink, tink, tink across the microphone, they're probably walking across the floor.
Listen in each week while we discuss our life, current events, random TikToks, and the little arguments that undoubtedly come up. Whether you're in a long-term relationship yourself or in a fresh new relationship, we hope you find our podcast fun, entertaining, and helps you realize there is a normal in life's little arguments. Hey, babe.
Hey, love. This is our first video podcast.
We hope,
So I have to look good and, sound good and look good?
Look at me.
There's a lot of pressure.
It is what it is.
A lot of pressure.
We've, we've been to the dog wash.
Yeah.
So
we sweat our asses off
yes,
because we were in the Jeep with no doors.
As balls.
We had that fake fall last week and made everybody feel good about it. And
yes.
just in normal Georgia fashion, boom, hit us like a wrecking
ball.
ball.
Yes, like a wrecking ball for sure. So, anyway, this is not episode 8.
But it is also not episode 7, so we're going to call it 7.5.
We're going to actually call it a bonus.
Or 7.5.
Okay, 7.5, whatever. So I wanted to actually, the reason we're doing this is because I felt like after listening back to the episode last week, and the fact that we had a couple of people make comments that you really took a beating on that episode, even though I don't really feel like you felt like that.
Well, I don't know that I felt like I took a beating per se. I guess I felt like I was in the wrong, but I also later went back and looked at the text because you sent it to me, and I was like, okay, this was not good, but it wasn't.
No, it was bad.
It wasn't bad.
It was bad.
Yeah, okay.
Anyway, so I wanted to kind of just not rehash it. I wanted to just kind of break it down a little bit for the audience because I feel like they don't know the entire backstory of things. And I really do feel like that played a little bit into this.
Okay.
And it really just kind of back to being, real and authentic about, what's going on, or what has gone on necessarily in the past. And so I just felt like we kind of owed it. I guess we don't really owe it to anybody, but I guess I felt a little bit like I just wanted to explain that a little bit because it did feel like, it did come off probably a little bit harsh. And so that's really what this episode is going to be about.
Can we also make it about the fact that we said we aren't swingers, and I still have people messaging me. I literally had somebody message me and said, because I put a post out there that said, hey, look, we're trying to get to 1,000 downloads, blah, 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 help us out. Somebody sent me a message like, I'm helping you out, and then they said, you need to listen to episode, I think it was 6 or I guess it was 7, 46 minutes and 29, whatever the time frame was. And they were like, I still don't believe you. And I'm like, and so I go back and listen. I said, damn it, I'm going to have to go listen now because I didn't know exactly what it was.
I don't have any idea what
and
you
said. And at that precise second, it literally says, we are not swingers. And I'm just like, what else do we have to do to convince people? And again, I don't know. If people are going to have their opinions, rumors are going to be rumors, all this stuff. It is what it is. People are going to think what they're going to think, I suppose, no matter what we say. But anyhow, I just wanted to make it abundantly clear. And I thought it was somewhat humorous that I, even after that episode, because we thought, okay, maybe we put the episode out, we'll tell people, blah, 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 that I still literally have people say, I still don't believe you. So anyways.
Well, no. Okay. So that's not really what I had on the agenda to do.
But I just wanted to say, so let's
we definitely will do another episode,
sure.
I think, about that because I would love to talk about that a little bit more. I would love to talk about the show that we watched, the Couples to Thruples, because that really, if you really want to talk about that whole dynamic, I feel like that show was really interesting to watch. So I think we could discuss.
And I think it was pretty authentic. I mean, outside of the fact that they were like on an island resort or something. But
so I enjoyed it, and I think we definitely can talk about that. But no, that we will table that for maybe our next episode. Okay. But for this one, I really kind of wanted to just go more into really our relationship around that time frame, because you said some things to me kind of after the fact, I feel like, maybe of the episode of what was going on for you. And I don't feel like at that time when all of that happened that we discussed any of that. I don't think any of that came up at that time, and I don't think we discussed any of it, and I still don't know that we've really discussed a lot of it. So I thought we would kind of just do that.
Fair. Let's go for it.
So, I don't know, I guess just to jump into it. So do you kind of want to explain where your head was? Because you are the one that, these small things happen. And I think in a bubble, when like you're thinking about, maybe the Snapchat thing or maybe the text thing, like individually, not probably a huge deal. And, but when you think about them in combination, I really started thinking about it more. And I'm like, had I not saw your phone that night, had I not kind of, went into this rage and we had this fight or whatever, I'm wondering, like, where could or would this have gone?
Yeah, well, I can say it would not have escalated. I mean, for me, it was fun, for lack of better words, just a little banter back and forth. But being in your position, if I were to put myself in your position, I can understand why you would feel the way you feel. I wouldn't like it, but I also know that was not my intention at all either. And I had full control over kind of how far it went, how far it didn't go, whatever the case may be. But I will tell you, I have, since that last episode, had 3 or 4.
I've had a bunch of people tell me
3 or 4 text messages, and I'm responding back. I'm shutting it down, because I don't want to risk that again, and I certainly don't want to make you feel any type of way about that. So. But they continue to come, obviously. I don't know any other way out of it.
I've had a ton of people message me and say, "Oh my gosh, I'm getting," like, sending me their
They probably are now.
text.
They're like, "Shit, this is what
yes, like all of it. Like, I've gotten so many message about that other people getting these particular texts. So that's actually, sorry.
So
sorry
I'll
about
just
that.
say it. I think the comment that Annie's referring to. So we talked about the last episode a few days ago, and I made the comment to her. I said, I think things were just different when you owned the shop, when you owned the boutique, right? And I think that's the comment that's kind of triggered you maybe wanting to dive a little bit deeper into this.
Yeah, I think so. And I think that you also made a comment on the podcast. You said, I just wanted to see how far I could get it before, they drop me a link and then I'm having to pay for it. And then I'm like, okay, so I don't like that either, but so I kind of wanted to talk through that, and then talk through that statement that you did say that I don't think you sat down and outright told me at the time. You would just make comments to me about, me not being present or not being available to you or just being all consumed by the store. And I think by that time that these things happen, I do feel you were being much more vocal about me being all consumed. But the things you were saying was, I'm being all consumed by the store.
Yeah.
And I think my response was to you is, I don't know what you expect from me because the store requires me to be all consumed, unfortunately.
Yeah. Well, I'll be honest with you, because I've thought about it, because I knew you wanted to talk about this a little bit more, and I've kind of tried to process it in my head. And I think part of it is the store, and I'll kind of elaborate on that. But I think part of it, too, was I feel like I had kind of lost my identity a little bit. Because, you go back to the Geico episode where I had put 19 plus years of my life into something, and for the most part, that was my identity. Right. I mean, when people saw me, friends and family, they would all, you're Mr. Geico. Yeah. I mean, I got a lizard tattooed on my arm, which I got that before I started working at Geico. So not related, but it was like an ongoing joke that you're Mr. Geico. And so I think when all that happened, I was so distraught, turned off by it, frustrated, angry. Every negative emotion you can think, I think was bottled up inside of me. And I'm good at kind of sharing my emotions. If I'm going to cry, I'm going to cry. If I'm going to laugh, I'm going to laugh. But I'm not the best at talking about things. And I think I would say at least a few years, I was struggling to figure out what it is that I really wanted to do. And so after Geico, I worked for New York Life, and I was a financial advisor, did life insurance, helped people with investments and all this stuff. And honestly, I liked it. I don't know that I would say I loved it. I was good at it, but I don't know that I necessarily had a passion for it. And so I felt like during that time, it was as much me trying to kind of reinvent myself and figure out what my new identity was going to be. And then, of course, you couple that with, we had the shop going and everything else. So I want to make it clear that was probably a part of this puzzle as much as the shop was part of the puzzle. And I think now too, so when I say things are different now than they were then, that's also a big part of it, because now that I'm into real estate, I really and truly feel like that I love it. I mean, I feel like I'm good at it, but I really and truly love it. And I have a passion for it and helping people in this direction, in this way, much, much differently than I did when I was with New York Life. And I don't know that I'm any better at real estate than I was at New York, whatever the case may be, but I feel like that there's much more of a true, genuine passion for it. So when I think about kind of my identity, I feel like kind of going into production and kind of doing my own thing has helped kind of create that a little bit more, at least in my mind. How do you feel about that? Does that make sense?
I suppose it does a little bit, but I think that there's also a bigger issue that we probably, I don't mind talking about. It is definitely very sensitive. It's very personal, and I can't help but think that, that played a part in it as well. And the only reason I'm talking about it is because I have to feel like I'm not the only woman going through it, and or only relationship that has gone through it. And it makes me wonder, did that impact this, and was that part of it? And so, of course, what I'm referring to is, the whole perimenopause thing, the things that come along with that, which that freaking sucks. So for those of you that maybe don't know or haven't experienced yet, and it starts in your mid to late 30s, at least it did for me, but definitely has increased from the time the store opened, I feel like a year or so after the store opened to now, with the, lack of sex drive, the sex being painful because of, you're thinning out of your lining down there, and all the things. And there's really not any good solutions out there for women, unfortunately. And I can't help but think, that played a part in it.
No, I mean, I would be lying if I said that it didn't. I think that over time, we have communicated better on that, and I kind of understand it a little bit more. I think for me, I'm an open book. I'm a very emotional person. I'm a very loving person. And I think for me, more so than just the sexual part of it, was like I love to love, and I love to be loved. I mean, like, words of affection are my love language. Physical touch is my love language too, but I would argue that that's probably secondary to words of affection, or words of affirmation, I should say. So I think that part of it was,
I thought it was physical touch. I thought physical touch was like your number one.
I mean, they're both close. I mean, don't get me wrong, but I think that words of affirmation are very important to me. They always have been. They probably always will be. So I think what I'm trying to say is, there was a period in time where it was like, I would try to reach out to you during the day and flirt with you or sext with you or whatever, and it would fall on deaf. It was almost like I was a burden to you, and it over time that started to kind of add up to, it was like, well, shit. I mean, I literally can't. I mean, first of all, things physically in the bedroom are not the same way that they were, but now even the flirting and the banter and all that stuff is gone. And so when that happened, then it's just like what do I do? You know what I'm saying? And you know, hindsight's always 2020. I could have communicated it differently. I feel like there were plenty of times where I tried to say to you, I need this, I need this, I need this. And understandably, the business kind of took priority because you had to run a business. I mean, you know,
Yeah.
and I understood all the work and I understood the long hours and I understood, you know, looking over, but it was just, that's to me, that disconnect happened emotionally as much as it did physically. And I don't think that you really and truly took the time to hear me when I was trying to tell you that, because I think that the conversation always went to all you want is sex and I can't do it right now. And I'm like, no, like that's not what I'm trying to tell you. Of course I want to have sex. I love like all that physical stuff is great, but at the core of that, I want to have that emotional connection. I want to have, you know, the flirtiness. I want to have the sexting. I want to have the pictures. I mean, I want to have all these things. And if that leads up to sex, that's great. But if not, then that's okay too, because I understood the physical changes that were happening within your body. And honestly, if I'm being completely honest, the physical changes started to happen in my body too. I mean, I was not in the shape that I wanted to be in. I wasn't exercising. I wasn't going to the gym. Or if I did, it would be sometimes, but not all the time. This and that. And I feel like that my level, because I'm 45. I mean, obviously, you know, once you hit 40 and start getting older, you know, typically a man's testosterone starts to change. I know I got mine tested, I don't know, probably early 40s, maybe 30s, late 30s. I don't really remember when I first got it tested, but it was, I don't know, like let's just say 390 or something. I don't remember the exact number, but I was like, okay, great. Let's get on a testosterone supplement. The doctor was like, no. And I was like, what do you mean no? He's like, well, you're within the normal range. The normal range is 300 to 900. And I'm like, well, shit, okay, maybe I'm in a normal range, but I'm at the low end of the normal range, Doc.
Yeah.
And I have later learned that, you know, it's harder to administer testosterone if someone's within a range versus some of the other medications and so forth. I guess it's just monitored a lot differently. But anyhow, so I know that my testosterone was not where it needed to be. Of course, the doctor is, well, if you lose weight, you start exercise, you start doing all this stuff, your testosterone will naturally go up. And so all of those physical changes were kind of happening to me too. Not physical, I'm not painful and that kind of thing, but I think it all kind of played into it. But I think more importantly, where we struggled during, you know, that period of time is I kept trying to tell you how important this banter, this communication, this back and forth, this whatever is to me. And I every time I try to convey that to you, it turned into all you want is sex. All you want to do is complain that we're not having sex. And I'm like, that's not what I'm trying to tell you.
Right. I mean, I hear what you're saying, but that when I would do this banter back with you, it was, I feel like you would be like so excited and you would get into it.
Yeah.
And then
and I'd want more.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's the point. Like, I'm not taking any farther because I don't have the capacity for that right this second. Partly sometimes because of the store and because of things that I had to do. And then partly just because I had zero sex drive. Like, there's nothing about it that was interesting to me. And of course, I think that was always a frustration too, because you're always like, well, you know, I think it's there were times that you accused me of like, you know, so what are you doing otherwise? Like, who, you know, is there somebody else and stuff like that? Because
I got to think there's got to be.
Right.
Like,
but you could never like fully understand. I feel like that. No, this is not about you. This is about me. And I understand that it felt like it was about you because, you know, you're not getting what you needed, but it was so incredibly frustrating for me for you to not understand that it wasn't about you and to just try to understand my point of view or my perspective that, you know, it was not having the drive, and then it being painful when, like, you know, I hope most women don't experience the painful sex portion. I think that if you can get onto some sort of, you know, hormone therapy or whatever, that maybe that can help alleviate some of that rather than going through it. But
You ain't gonna give me any credit for that.
No, I'm not giving you credit for it hurting.
I'm just teasing.
But it was extremely frustrating for me, for you, because I just felt like we constantly had this same conversation back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, and we never got anywhere with it, and it was extremely frustrating. And so I really just only bring it up to talk about it because I feel like, surely
we're not the only ones who feel
we can't possibly be the only ones who have gone through things like this, and maybe that just gives people a little bit more background as to kind of maybe why this even happened. I mean, I would like to think that if that weren't the case, that this wouldn't have happened. But it definitely impacted us for sure. It's still impacting us. I just recently, I don't know why I've been fighting against it for so long. Before I even left Geico, I had tried the hormone therapy, which, for those of you that are not familiar, one of the hormone therapies that you can do are the pellets, and you probably have heard something about it, but that, really, I feel like didn't become more common until I was probably, I don't know, right at 40, I guess. And I started experiencing, I complained to my OB for years. I mean,
Annie's very, very passionate about this now after this length of time, as she should be.
Yes. So I complained for at least 3 solid years to him that, like, I'm so exhausted. Like, I'm just exhausted. And he's like, well, you're a full-time mom. You're a working mom. Like, of course you're going to be exhausted. That's life. And I'm like, oh, okay, I guess it's just life. But knowing good and damn well that it wasn't just life. I had been doing all of the exact same things. Nothing in my life had changed other than the fact that I started to feel exhausted. That was probably the first thing that, looking back now, that I realized was a symptom of beginning the perimenopause. And perimenopause, first of all, the whole thing can last like 15 years. And nobody tells you that. Nobody tells you that. Most moms don't probably talk about it. My mom didn't talk about it. My mom had a full hysterectomy, I think probably before she was 40, but we never really talked about any of that kind of stuff. And so I didn't really know.
I don't think society talks about it.
No, they don't, because we don't know about it, because we have not studied it. There's been one study done, and it was done like back in the 70s. And that study basically said that if you give estrogen to women, which is what we're lacking, that it could correlate to causing cancer. Well, yeah, no shit. Everything causes fucking cancer. So they basically took that study, they ran with it, and they said, we're never giving women estrogen, almost. And that, unfortunately, is what we need. That is what we are losing and what our body is lacking. And it's extremely unfortunate. So anyway, finally, after about 3 years of complaining straight every year, my doctor was like, okay, so, you've talked about this and we've got this new thing and blah, 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 whatever. And he starts telling me about all the pellets. And I'm like, okay, does insurance cover it? Well, no, insurance doesn't cover it. So, that's a frustration in and of itself, because men can get freaking dick pills, but yet we can't get medicine that for hormones that we literally are losing and our body's not making anymore. We can't get those, but okay, whatever. So we talked about it. I decided to go ahead and try it and see what it was going to be like. And the pellets, the way that it works is, they're literally little pellets. They do a small little incision into your butt and they stick it in there. They tape you back up with that stereotape or whatever it is. And it's, should release and hopefully last about 3 to 4 months is what they hope. My body seems to always metabolize things faster. So I feel like prior to 3 months, I always felt a dip, but I only tried it, I want to say 3 to 4 times, because I remember the first time it being like, whoa. I mean, it
was the second time. First time it was good. Second time it was whoa.
Oh, was that the direction?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then the third time was meh.
Yeah. And after the third time, I'm like, well, why am I paying this money when
Because it's not cheap.
No, it's not cheap. And so why am I paying this money if I'm not getting any benefit from it? And that was my fault. I should have gone back to the doctor. I should have said, hey, this one is not doing anything. I need you to test it again, see where I'm at, see if you can add a little bit more. And I didn't do that part. And so basically I just said, I'm not doing it anymore. I'm not putting my body through this, which is not a big deal, obviously, but I'm like, I'm just not making a priority. I'm not doing it. And so I think that that probably not long after I quit doing that is probably when everything happened and opened the store. And then it just went to, okay, well, I'm definitely not making it a priority because I just don't have the time. Like, I built this brand on me. And so because I've built this brand on me, I feel like I need to be there all the time. And
it was a time thing.
I got to take my contact out.
It was a time thing, but it was also a capacity thing. And it was also a stamina thing because, you know, I could see them. Like, you literally would go in and be on your feet all day, every day, and then come home and be on the computer for, 3 hours, 4 hours. I'd go to bed. You'd be coming to bed at midnight. You know what I mean? And it was looking back on it, I don't know what we would have done differently. I'm still glad that we did it the way we did it. I'm still glad that we had that experience. But it wasn't the most conducive for our relationship.
No, it wasn't.
And I'm not blaming you for my actions. I'm not saying that at all. But I do think it's important.
That's good because I'm not accepting that.
But I do think it's important that you understand. For me, it was much less about the physical than you heard me saying. And I think that's a lot of times when I would try to communicate it and it would turn into a back and forth, or pointing fingers, and that was not healthy either. And then it just got to the point where I just stopped talking about it, period. Because I'm like, there's no sense in even bringing it up because she doesn't understand what I'm trying to tell her.
And that's where the problem is. And that's kind of why I want to talk about it, is because like I feel certain other couples have gone through that, and when you get to that point, you've got to do something drastic because otherwise something drastic is going to happen. And I'm very thankful that it did not go any farther than, the things that I saw. I'm also proud of myself for calling you on your bullshit about it too. And standing up for myself because I feel like I did that at that particular point in time. But I kind of also just wanted to have this conversation because I did feel like, were people wondering. We're like, okay, so this seems like there might be something more to this than that. And I wanted to just kind of have that conversation and really just put it all out there that really what the backstory was for it.
Well, and I want to talk too because, like I said, Annie's very passionate about this women's health, especially sexual health and everything else, because like society almost just makes it like, okay, you're here to make babies, and once you're done making babies, you really don't have a use for having sex anymore.
And that's true. I heard it somewhere. I can't think of where it was, but they were talking about when women go through menopause, you actually start to see them. They talked about it was they start to fade into the background. They start wearing more like muted colors, a lot of blacks, a lot of grays, and they kind of just blend into the background. Whereas when you are vibrant and in your youth and in that prime time, you tend to wear more bright colors and you're noticed more. And that's biologically kind of how it's set up. And that sucks. Like that's not okay. And I'm not fixing to blend into the background.
And I think it's fair to say that today's woman is not the same as
very
50s,
much so.
60s, 70s. But from a health standpoint, I think it's still kind of treated like that.
Absolutely.
But the other thing I want to talk about too is testosterone.
Yeah.
I have used generic Cialis for, I don't know, probably 3-4 years, however long it's been. I don't use it all the time. Honestly, I probably use it more so if I know I'm going to be consuming alcohol and I might need a little bit of help. I have used it before, but there have been months and months where I've not used it. It's frustrating sometimes that you take it actually. But there have been months and months. But I did see that over the course of the last few years, my energy level has gone down. My desire to get into the gym has gone down. My sexual desire had gone down. And for a period of time, I thought, well, hell, it's because I know how this is going to end. It's going to be uncomfortable for her. It's going to be painful for her. Whatever. It's just not even worth it. And so I'm now on testosterone replacement therapy as well. I'm not on steroids. I think people sometimes get that confused.
Yeah.
This is not a anabolic steroid. I would be much bigger and stronger and hairier man. I don't know what all comes with it, but that's not what I'm on. It's a testosterone replacement therapy, which I made the decision to do because I could feel a change in my body physically. And Annie would say, no, you still want to hump all the time. And I'm like, no, I don't. Like, I don't have that desire anymore. I don't have that energy anymore. And then which exacerbated the conversation that it's not about just physical sex for me like you keep saying it is. Of course, I wanted it and I loved it and everything else, but that's not what this is about. And so when she kept trying to like push that down my throat, I'm like, shut the
Yeah, but your words and your actions didn't match.
And I understand that. But so anyhow, I could tell there was a change in my body. So now I have been taking testosterone replacement therapy for probably 4 or 5 months now.
Something like that.
Yeah, something like so. Maybe let's just call it 6 months. I realize it is something that I will be on the rest of my life.
Yeah.
Because once you start it, your body, of course, you guys know this, your body stops to produce it, which it wasn't producing shit anyways, but stops to produce it, and then you're just injecting yourself. And so once a week, I do the syringe, I do the alcohol.
I inject you. You don't get
Andy
inject
comes
yourself.
in and she injects me. It's painful. It's not painful. It's kind of like a pleasurable hurt because
What?
I think the pleasure part just comes from you doing it. But then like she switches sides and she'll do it. And I'm like, "Are you in?" And then she's like, "Yeah, I'm in." And then I'll flex in the mirror.
Oh my God, it's ridiculous.
No, but it's a routine. But honestly, I know that we'll be doing that the rest of my life, or at least until I don't need any testosterone. But
Yay for me.
It's literally
I know.
45 seconds out of your
I
week.
know.
Out of your week.
I know,
So,
yeah.
But anyways, I say all that to say that if you're a guy, probably in your 40s or older, and you're experiencing the lack of energy, the lack of motivation, the lack of swagger, the lack of wanting to get in a gym, or the lack of wanting to get up and work your ass off. I mean, if you're experiencing all those things that I was experiencing for a few years, I would highly encourage you to talk to your doctor, talk to someone about getting testosterone replacement therapy, or at least looking into it.
Well, and so that brings me back to, let's come back to present day. So I finally made the decision that I'm done with this. Why am I suffering so much? Because the other symptoms that I started having were and it's kind of crazy because I feel like it didn't really start until the store stopped, because I was on my feet all day, which is crazy because now, like, my hips hurt so bad. The joint pain is insane, but it's literally just in my hips, which is a symptom. I really noticed once the store stopped, the brain fog kind of take over. And I kind of started feeling like that towards the end as well of being at the store. And it's a brain fog of just like, I can't sometimes find my words, honestly. And sometimes I just can't muddle through, like, what was I just doing? And I just can't figure things out that I definitely have been able to figure out in the past. And so that is a symptom. Eyesight, that if you're watching, we hope to have this on YouTube this time. So if you are watching on YouTube and you see me messing with my eye, I'm highly allergic to my dogs, first of all. So if I touch any type of animal,
and then we were around other dogs.
We were around other dogs, and so if I touch any type of anything with a pet dander of any kind, and then get anywhere near my eyes, then it's jacked. You can just forget it. So I went ahead and just took my contact out, and it's of course like itching and watering and looks crazy. But the dry eye is a huge thing.
Your voice is a little raspy tonight.
Is it?
I'm digging it. When you get raspy like once a year, like during flu season, I'm like, I kind of like the way that sounds.
So the dry eye is a symptom of that. Of course, your hair changes, your skin texture.
Perimenopause sucks, y'all.
And it's not just, it's perimenopause and menopause. So I don't think I'm even technically in the menopause phase. I still think I'm in the peri phase. And I can't really tell you what the difference is, honestly. But I've had a partial hysterectomy. So I do not have a uterus, but I do have my ovaries still. So I still produce the hormones, supposedly, that, which, you would need. But I don't have the uterus piece. So I'm not really sure where I was going with that, but anyway, you
started pellets again. Is that?
Yes. Yeah. So I really just kind of going through all the symptoms. There's so many symptoms, honestly. Everything. That's kind of the running joke we have is, oh, that's
blame it on perimenopause.
Blame it on perimenopause.
I'm hungry. Blame it on perimenopause. I'm tired. Blame it on perimenopause.
But that's basically it. I mean, your metabolism sucks. You start getting that weight around your belly that you cannot just get rid of, no matter how much. If you starve yourself, you're on the diet, going to the gym all the time. That belly you still have that belly fat.
So let's talk. So you're back on pellets now, but when you went to the doctor, you got your testosterone was measured.
Yeah. So I went to if you live here locally, I went to Ageless Athletes and had them do my testing, and they ran all of the tests. Matter of fact, no, I took them downstairs. All the levels, and because they want to check everything, they want to make sure everything else is working correctly. Like specifically, they had a question about my thyroid, and I one of my levels was elevated, and they were like, well, you're going to have to go see your regular doctor before we give you these pellets. And the NP looked at it again, and she's like, but it's just one level. And so they started asking some questions, which I'm thankful that they did. And it turns out that it's highly likely that it could be caused by like the hair pills that I take and the collagen. All of that has the biotin in it. So that was the one that was elevated. So anyway, they want to check everything and make sure everything is working correctly, your heart and all of that good stuff, before they will do these pellets. But my results, so I'm 48. So for a woman my age, the minimum level that your testosterone should be, and I don't know how this is measured, but I'll just give you the numbers. It said for my age, the minimum that would be acceptable is a 60. And the ideal is 150. So it's a pretty big range. That's just like you're talking about.
300 to
900. Yeah. It's crazy. So it's a very big range. And when they did my testing, mine was at a 22. So I was like, shit.
So basically you had no testosterone.
Basically none. And which means the estrogen, well, it doesn't mean, I suppose, but my estrogen, obviously, it was very low as well, which is what's causing, a lot of these issues. And so I was a good candidate for it. I went ahead and signed up for it, had them injected. It's a very simple process. It's very minimal downtime as well. Only thing I couldn't do is I couldn't do my, booty workout at the gym. So, that sucked for a couple of days. And then that was it. And so I've had that done 2 weeks ago now. And they say probably a minimum of 3 weeks before you really start to feel any kind of boost from it, whether it's energy or, the desire or, these particular things. And so, and they give you a sheet, and it's got all the ranges on there of when you can kind of expect things to pick back up. But I'm looking forward to it. I'm hoping that it does, in fact, help, because, that I can understand now. I understand now why at this age, probably divorce rate is high. And I think for men, that's why they go for the younger woman. It's not because these women are hot. It's because we as women are fucked. Like, our bodies are betraying us, and it's not conducive for a good marriage, and it just sucks.
It started with the kings. You like every single King Louis and King, all these shows we watch. That's the exact process.
Yeah,
they marry to have a baby. Once the woman either has a baby or doesn't, and then they go for the next young person, and then it recycles itself over and over. So I'm kind of joking, but not really joking. But I think the other thing, this is not, we're not intending for this to turn into a plug for Ageless Athletes, but
no, because you could go to your doctor.
Yeah, but what I will tell you that I appreciate about Ageless Athletes is they're females up there, and they can help guys.
But they can do the testosterone for guys,
yeah,
too.
They
That's kind of where I was going with that.
And a lot of other stuff. But what I appreciated about it is Annie now has another female or multiple females up there that she can talk to that I think have a much better understanding than, and there's nothing against male doctors, nothing against male OBGYNs.
They're not taught. They literally have like 2 hours of training on menopausal health in school.
And here's the other thing I want to say about this too. Ageless Athletes says, and I'm sure other places would do this as well, you need to come back in after 3 weeks,
They'll call me in 4 weeks to find out, do I feel like I'm getting any type of lift? Do I feel better? Do I still feel like I'm having, the same symptoms? And if I feel like I just have zero difference, then they'll tell me to come in, recheck my levels. And if they don't have them where, kind of
optimal.
Yeah, the optimal towards that 150 for the testosterone, then they'll they'll recalibrate and put a little bit more in. And so that's nice.
So here's the point I want to make with that.
And I'm sorry, the NP that administers it and goes, she's so extremely thorough. She does this herself. Yeah. She does the hormone replacement herself. And so she understands it and had she talked about her symptoms that she had, in comparison to mine. And so she truly does understand this.
But the point I want to try to make with that too is I think when it comes to women's health, but just in general, and I think that this is probably an Annie thing as much as anything is you need to force the issue.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
And that's not my nature.
Week number 4, you need to say, I'm going back, and damn it, if it's not at the optimal level, I want something different. Case in point, she's getting lip injections. I don't think there's
Oh my geez, you're gonna tell everything.
They're gonna be able to tell, but
they're
anyhow,
not. I promise.
So Annie's getting lip injections. She's done it a couple times before.
Yeah.
They look great, but like she says, her body metabolism is pretty.
No, as you age, if you lose your lips, you lose it. You absolutely, it just like goes and it disappears into your gum, and then that's not cute.
So she's getting them done right before we go to our trip.
Oh my God, I wasn't telling anybody this.
I think they're going to be able to tell.
They're not.
If not, we wasted our money. How about that?
That's what I'm trying to tell you.
Here's the point. Is she's getting it done right before the trip, which is cool. I told her, I said, you need to call back and you need to ask them, can you please put me on a call cancellation list? Meaning that if somebody calls and says, look, I can't get it done, I want to be the first person that you call.
This is not the dentist office.
But you have to ask for what you want. What is the worst that they could say?
I suppose they could say we don't do that. I guess,
great. But guess what? If they did and it allowed you to get it done a week before the trip or 2 weeks, but whatever it ends up being. But I think when it comes to women's health, because it is not the norm in our society, especially with sexual health and some of this other stuff, I think women have to be much, much more proactive at asking and demanding what they need. Because guess what? If there weren't dick pills, guys would demand it. And by God, they'd figure out, which is why Viagra and Cialis and all these other generic brands and everywhere you look now, because guys demanded that you got to do something different with my body.
Oh, well, I don't know that guys demanded it. I think guys are in charge. And so guys are going to look out for guys because, why would they look out for the women?
But so again, I applaud you for doing this. I honestly applaud you for even talking about this.
Well, I mean, I think it was, I don't want to say our marriage depended on it because I don't think we were there, but I think if I didn't do something, I think it could come to a point where our marriage would depend on it. Because sex is very important. It's extremely important.
It's extremely important. And I said to Annie, we were driving down the road, I think it's probably this past week, I said, it's a culmination of things, Annie. I said, but I don't know that I had felt this good in years. And what I meant, like physically, with my real estate business, with the way the roofing business is going. I love the guys over there and how we're able to help customers there. Our sex life is in a good spot. Our banter and the flirting and all that stuff is in a good spot. I really like the relationship we have with both of the kids now is in a good spot. Like there's just so many things going right. And I feel like that a lot of it can be attributed to the schedules now, and a lot of it can be attributed to me getting on the testosterone and feeling like I need to feel, and you being able to do some things differently with your body and kind of get you back to the way that you feel. So I don't want to say that like if you didn't get on these pellets, if I didn't get on testosterone, there's no way we were making it. It wasn't anything like that, but I love the way things are right now.
We are both very affectionate people, and not everybody is necessarily a naturally affectionate person. I would say that, like my mother, for example, I never saw, like I very rarely saw her or Gary, be affectionate to each other. But then yet my dad and my stepmom very much so all the time. So,
that was, I would argue, at least top 3, if not the top thing that drew me to you, I think, was how affectionate you were, because that's how I wanted to be my whole life.
Yeah.
And when the kids are like, oh God, yeah, this is the way it is in this house. If we're out with friends and we kiss, that's the way it is. I mean, there's not going to be another way. But
I've have to be better about that, because I think having the store and being so consumed with it that I just kind of...
You get out of the habit.
You do get out of the habit.
The new norm is...
Yes.
To not be as affectionate.
Yes.
And if you know how important that is...
And it's taken a while to get out of that mindset and get back and make another new norm.
So is there anything else you want to say about this? I don't know if we end with this, but I just want to encourage you guys. Y'all really need to talk to each other. If you're, you don't have the energy, you don't have the drive, you're not feeling like yourself, if it's painful, if it's, if you're gaining weight and you can't understand why, if you're sleepy all the time and you can't understand why, y'all talk to each other, consult some help, with somebody who knows what they're doing, knows what they're talking about. And
communication is key. Yeah. It's just really important to talk about it. And I think that's the only other thing that I wanted to say, is that the reason I wanted to talk about it is because I want to hopefully open up communication between other couples for them to talk about it, because I feel like you and I have pretty good communication. I mean, sometimes it may come to a blow up before we can finally be in a place to hear the other person really well. And talk together and not just talking at each other. But I
feel like we have been there most years.
Yeah, yes. I think our communication is pretty good. But I want to, for other people that maybe don't have that same type of communication, to maybe open this conversation up for them to kind of talk about this a little bit, and ask each other some questions about it and not be afraid. Don't hold back, because, had I not done anything differently, I would be devastated. I would be devastated if, things ended for us. So
I thought this was going to be a bonus. We're going to need to just call this episode 8, because this is as long as any of our other, which is great. I love this conversation.
Well, and for the women, I'll just throw this out there too. I did record on my other podcast an episode. It's a bonus, basically, also. Well, I don't know. Anyway, but it is all about the menopausal health and things that you can experience. And they start as early as your mid-30s and can go well past, into your 50s and 60s. So I'll release that too. And that I go more in depth in all of it. But anyway, I enjoy talking about it, because I feel like we have to talk about it, because I feel like we don't talk about it enough. My friends and I have started talking about it more, and even as we talk through it, I still have friends that say, nobody talks about this stuff. And I feel like it's all over my TikTok algorithm, because I am researching and looking and, actively searching this stuff out. And so because it's on my TikTok algorithm, I kind of assume it's on everybody else's, but that's definitely not how it works. So I think it's important to talk about it. So I appreciate you talking about it. I hope it didn't absolutely bore you to death, but even if it did, oh well, that's fine. We're doing it for us, so it's fine. Yep. But I love you.
Love you. Love you guys. Thanks for tuning in.
Oh,
for watching. I can say we're watching now.
Yeah, maybe.
Not just listening, but for watching.
Yeah,
so.
Well, that's...
Are we done? Are we done before we end it?
Yeah, we can be done.
All right, love you guys.
All right, love you.
Thank you.
Mwah.